Hey there. Um, so I think I've mentioned in some other videos before that lately I've been listening to this side hustle podcast. It's a podcast about budding entrepreneurs. It's called Side Hustle Nation, and at the end of every episode, he interviews a guest who's started a successful side hustle usually, and he asks them to give their number one tip for Side Hustle Nation. What's one thing that you would like to tell our listeners? And usually, the number one tip, has to do with staying the course, being persistent, don't give up, believe in yourself. Because a lot of these businesses, of course, go through a period of instability in the beginning where you don't know if things are going to pan out, or it's easy to give up. And so I was a little surprised when this one guest, he took the opposite approach, and he said, my number one tip for the listeners is to quit quicker. Quit quicker. It's like so many years, I was so determined that I was barking up the wrong tree. And, I wasn't attentive to the signs that I should be doing something else. When things don't work out, when we struggle, especially if we're a kind of person that gives up easily, like I have been in my life, and I don't like that about myself. And I'm at this point in my life, I think sometimes I overcompensate. When things don't work out, I double down, I triple down, I try even harder. And it's not always the solution. There's a story about how I believe it was oyster fishermen who they noticed that they weren't catching as many oysters, and it was because there was a starfish problem. There was too many starfish, and so whenever they would catch the starfish in their pots, they would they would cut them up and throw them back in the water. And year after year, the starfish problem didn't get better; it got worse. So they cut up more starfish and they throw them back in there. They just, every time they caught a carp, they just would cut it up and throw it back in the water. What they didn't know was that starfish regenerate. So if you cut a starfish in half, now you have two starfish. And so they were really making their problem worse in their attempt to make it better. And I know if any of you have a workplace that you go to and a boss and all of that, you can always see this. They're not happy with something, and so they take some course of action to remedy the situation. And if it doesn't work, they just double down on that course of action, or triple down, or but they do everything but stop and pause and say, was this really the right thing to do? I think I was listening to Brene Brown maybe recently. I can't remember where I got this, but she said, there's two kinds of awarenesses. There's the achieving awareness, and there's the awakened awareness. The achieving awareness asks, what do I want? How am I going to get it? The achieving awareness says, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. The achieving awareness sets smart goals. and develops a plan of attack, a plan of action. The achieving awareness is committed to a destination. But she says there's another awareness that we have that needs to be used at least in balance with that. And it may be even the predominant awareness that we should be using. And it's the awakened awareness. So, unlike the achieving awareness, the awakened awareness doesn't say, what do I want? How am I going to get it? The awakened awareness says, where am I being led right now? What are the signs that I need to be paying attention to? You know, whenever I've done anything successful in my life, it's rarely been the case that it was because I just doubled down on my efforts and tried so hard and disciplined myself to do something. You know, whenever I've been successful, it's the doors just seem to open. Resources would appear from out of nowhere. I would, the right people would appear at the right time to help me with the right thing. And everything just was like a well-oiled machine. And so I'm leaning a little bit more into the awakened awareness these days. Trying not to try so hard and to pay attention to where I'm being led. And all of these things I'm reminded of as I read the gospel today. It's from the Gospel of John, which is, a very mystical, cryptic, hard to understand gospel that shouldn't be taken literally at all. But Jesus is in an argument with the religious leaders who are very single-minded and focused and literalistic, and they says, why should we believe you? And Jesus' response is basically, you shouldn't. You shouldn't just believe me. But all of the other signs are pointing in the same direction. He says, it's not going to be, I'm not going to judge you. He says, your own prophets are going to judge you. The people that you look up to are going to judge you. All of the signs are pointing in the same direction. How can you not notice? God doesn't speak loudly, but God speaks often. And I found that to be true in my life. Whenever something was meant to be, I would always hear it from different sources at different times. Like it would just keep coming back, So I'll leave you with that. There's the achieving awareness that asks, what do I want and how am I going to get it? And then there's the awakened awareness that says, where am I being led right now? And God doesn't speak loudly, but God speaks often.